This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Coming to you live from the insidious lair of Brian Flynn, we bring you the Nerdy Manroom show with your host, Hassel and Monster, and I'm butchering the hell out of shit already.
You're just nervous because you know what you got going on this weekend.
I have jitters, no lie.
You'll be all right. You've lived through this once before. Get over it. But with that,
hopefully a much different outcome this time.
Hopefully so. But we'll let's jump straight into the show so I don't give you too many jitters. This week we're going to have a special guest interview with diorama building expert, Mr. Seth Stafford. But before we get to that, let's go to our sponsor and give them some thanks. A big thank you to The Zone Collectibles. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Visit them for all your nerdy needs, from comics to Legos, trading cards, toys, games, and more. Come out and celebrate with them in a few weeks. They're having their 5th year anniversary.
Next weekend.
Is it next weekend? Okay, I thought it was a couple weeks away. I am off by now. Yeah, my timetable is way off. But and plus you messed me up all in the intro. Since you butchered it now, I'm doing stuff wrong.
It's contagious.
We promise sometimes this is professional, but not most of the time. But remember to come out and help the Zone Collectibles support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And with that, Hassel, I think we're going to do something we haven't done in a while, which is Geek Week updates. So for anybody who hasn't been here in a while or who hasn't seen this before because they joined us after we kind of took a break from it for a few weeks, this is where we kind of jump in and talk about a few things that we've had going on in our geek life. And it doesn't cover everything, but it covers the stuff that kind of relates to what we talk about here on the show. And I don't have a ton. I have done a little bit, but I don't have a ton to go over. And I know you had some. So you want to rock, paper, scissors, or you just want to go first?
I'll go first. I'll get mine that way. That way I'll butcher the hell out of mine and you'll be good by then. So I don't have a whole lot as well. Last Saturday I kind of fell down the rabbit hole of The Boys season 3. And I'm up to next to the last episode. I like the hell out of it. I mean, which I like The Boys anyways. It's a fun series to me. Sometimes it's a little vulgarity for vulgarity, which I don't mind myself. It's just hard to watch with other people.
And that has been my complaint because I have enjoyed it. And the storyline wise, it's okay. But there's certain things that they do in certain episodes. And it's like, you just did that just to get the shock value. And the first season, it seemed less of that. And as the second and third are going on, it's been more and more. And it's kind of like, it's getting to the point where it's like, well, I don't really want to even see that anymore because you're just doing it now just to get a rise out of people. Yeah, like it's not even furthering the story.
The head popper and the crimson hand or whatever, they just blow the hell out of somebody in a minute. They will explode on you quick.
Yeah, but in the prior seasons, it was stuff that would progress the story. Like, okay, let's use the most obvious example is the sexual assault of Starlight as she starts with the team, right, with the 7.
Yeah,
that furthers the story. So, is it gross to see? Yes, but was it a necessary part of the story? Yes. But now in season 3, the opening scenes at the Hero-gasm party or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, dude.
Or the micro dude, the shrinking Adam guy.
He was trying to get up his cock, and then I think the one that took the cake so far for me is probably either been where he was trying to force a hand job out of the burn up Nazi or the octopus.
Yeah.
I was like, I sat here for a minute. I was like, "Are you kidding me? We're not doing this."
None of those actually further the story. So why did we have to do those? If you do one a season, okay, but doing that many in a season and it's not furthering the story, I'm losing interest in some of that.
Yeah, an octopus cockhold. That was just like, whoa. And then they eats him later. It's like, ugh. Well, yeah. But Jeffrey was his friend, so. I'm up to about the next to the last episode on that, so I'll probably finish that off this weekend. I did get a kick out of seeing Dean Winchester, Soldier Boy.
He played a good part.
I don't know where that's going. I mean, he just I'm at a point where he just escaped Russia and got back to the U.S. So, and he has new powers apparently. So
yeah, he played a very good part in the show though.
Yeah, so I got that. Raw and Dynamite both sucked this week. For Raw to be gearing up for WrestleMania, there was nothing about Raw that just geared me up for WrestleMania. Other than Brock Lesnar butchering the hell out of Almost name, and it just kept calling him he just kept calling him Almost. And I was like, that's not his name. What are you doing?
I think he's doing that stuff on purpose because remember how he was doing Bobby and he'd be like Bobby every time he'd say it. And I'm like, why are you announcing?
Well, he keeps going off the rails, after everything too, and pushing things. It's like he's almost pushing to see what he can get away with at this point.
So since you mentioned wrestling, I don't want to dwell on this long because we do have a little bit of a timetable this week because I got to travel to make your nuptials. Did you see any, or have you heard or seen any? Because I don't really read the Wrestling Observer. Because honestly, I'll be honest with you, I think Dave Meltzer is very biased on what he likes. And I think in the past he might have been more unbiased.
5-star Japanese matches.
Yeah, now he's far more biased than he used to be. And I know there's a whole argument theme about Ariel Helwani and all that with Tony Khan. I'm not going to get into that one because I'm kind of on Ariel's side on that one. But did you see the Observer Awards and people voting? And they're like,
the Booker of the Year was the biggest bullshit.
Oh, that, and then Dynamite's the greatest show out there. I'm like, dude, SmackDown has been far better than that.
Now, SmackDown is head and shoulders the premier wrestling show right now. Like, it's the only reason I really stay up on WWE. Dynamite a year ago, year and a half, okay, it was the best show that had going wrestling-wise. It's not even on par with Raw anymore, which is sad because they have the talent, they got the people, and they're not utilizing it.
I don't know who voted on those awards, but like John Moxley being Performer of the Year and stuff, I'm like, how in the hell do you say that? I mean, he had nothing compared to what Roman Reigns had for a year. And he got like MJF and stuff. I'm like, how? Who's voting on this shit?
I'm not a Moxley fan at all. Don't get me wrong. I would like to see him and Hangman in that Texas Death Match Sunday, just because the brutality of it. But he is not that great to me. He pulls out an okay match with certain people, but it doesn't matter if he goes in there with Barry Horowitz. This fucker's bleeding. Why don't they just challenge him to a first blood match? You're winning this. That fucker's going to bleed.
The most egregious thing I saw in all that, though, and the reason I bring it up is that when they said what's the best wrestling shows out there, and they ranked them like 1 to 10, and Being the Elite was on the list of 10. I'm like, that's not even a fucking wrestling show. That is them playing around backstage.
YouTube channel.
Yeah,
I have.
It's not wrestling anyway. It's characters from wrestling, but that's a reality show. That's not.
It's almost
wrestling.
like up, down, down. That the New Day does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hell with that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna harp on it long, but I was listening to it today, hearing what all the announcements.
They got a few things right, like FTR being Tag Team of the Year. Okay, I can side with that. I mean, those are a few things they got right, but it was very AEW biased. I'll put it this way.
Yeah, vast majority was very biased.
So, moving away from wrestling, man, I watched Mando last night. It's pretty solid. I mean, it wasn't the greatest episode, but it wasn't a bad episode. It was a pretty solid episode that I guess sets the tone for this season.
I had that on my list of stuff too since you're on it, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it probably after the first 15 minutes or so of it, and I was getting more and more into it by the end of it. But you and I were talking about it earlier. Like I thought it was really well done, and I like the expanding the mythology of how they have to be baptized in the water and stuff. Yeah. And they were doing that on the planet they were on, but I felt like they drug out that fight with the alligator way too long. I was like, I was starting to nod off because I was losing it. I was like, why is this taking so long?
Well, see, I started watching it after AEW last night because I meant to watch it before. Then I got tied up and didn't. So as soon as AEW was off, I cut it on, and I then got pretty buzzed by this point, so I was able to enjoy. But I mean, was I not mistaken? The helmet she creates for the kid, isn't that the same color scheme as what the cartoon Boba Fett was for the cartoon special back in the day?
I don't remember. I'd have to look back at it.
It's close, if not.
It might be. I don't remember. I didn't pay that much attention. The color
scheme, I was kind of wondering, were they going for like, when young Boba Fett first, was out on his own away from, his dad after the death and whatnot. But then, you obviously realize the timetable isn't lining up. But
well, no, and I mean, they also don't consider Boba Fett a true Mandalorian anyway.
Well, that's why I was kind of
they don't believe clones or can be.
But the kid looked very, much like him. Then I was like, well, okay, maybe this is Mando as a child and showing him, because they took him in as a, what was he, a rebel or a little
They call
stray?
them foundlings, or basically
yeah, a little stray.
Yeah.
But I won't give too much away. But I really enjoyed it. I had a pretty decent haul this last week. I done some unboxing reviews, as some people seen. I had the Retro Car Wolverine. I busted him out of the pack, let him breathe. It was a good figure. I like it. Other than the claws. The claws was kind of janky. I got the 40th anniversary Boba Fett, speaking of, Mandalorians. And I got him on the wall now next to the 40th anniversary Han and Carbonite. So I got both the retros sitting next to one another. That was pretty cool. Thunder Tank came. So I'm thinking about doing an unboxing video this weekend. Because even though they're numbered, the boxes aren't taped. So I was like, it's meant to be opened.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort though. I mean, I still need to open Galactus because it's the same amount of effort, and I just haven't done it because it's like, gotta find somewhere to put it. Well, I gotta move stuff, and it's just a lot of work.
I didn't even set it on the carpet in the man room. Like I done laid out a piece of cardboard, set it on there like it's some Fabergé egg or something. So they didn't touch anything. But I keep looking at the box, and I love the box. It's an amazing, 80s style. It looks like you're walking on the toy aisle in the 80s. So pretty much got that. And the last thing I got, other than the mentioning of the wedding bells that we just discussed, so I'd like to give Brian Flynn a Super 7 a special fuck you for clumping all your shit together. I literally get hit with a Thunder Tank. No sooner than it gets here, I start getting emails, and I'm like, they're gonna fucking do it to me. I told you they would do it too. I got hit with 2 of the G.I. Joe's Ultimates yesterday. 2 Silverhawk Ultimates today. These fucking Silverhawks have been pushed and pushed and pushed. And this ain't even the first wave, and yet I get hit with a Throne and Steel Wheel, which means Monstar pre-transformation and Bluegrass is still, where the fuck are they in limbo because they're part of the same wave.
Well, they box all their stuff individually by the figure. So when they get a case in, like I've heard him talk on interviews about when they're shipping, they load a case of basically, let's take Steel Wheel. They load a case of Steel Wheel up, a full box of it, put it on a container, and then as the containers come in, they go through those one at a time and get all the figures out. And it's always usually the same figure or boxes of the same figure, and then a box of another one of the figures, and then that. So I got the notice on Steel Wheel, and I got a notice that my G.I. Joe Duke is coming soon, but he hasn't arrived yet. But it's just the fact that they got those in first, and that's probably the first boxes they sent out to all their retailers to start sending to everybody, because that's the first container they open. When they get around to Bluegrass and them, I mean, because they all were on the same shipments, but they weren't in the same containers, basically.
And when they come in, I will do some unboxing video because I'm going to open all these. The Ultimates, they don't survive. I take them out of the pack. The only one I've kept in the pack is, you can see the San Diego Comic-Con bat I left in the box. And I don't know why, because that's the one that's not taped.
And that's also
literally the others, they have that little brown tape disc.
It also didn't sell for crap.
Yeah.
They put that, they had a G.I. Joe sale the other day and actually had it on there marked down like 15-20% off because they still got them in stock.
Of course.
But the only ones of the Super 7 stuff I've opened is when I bought doubles like Lion-O, Bengali, Tigra. I did order 2 Quicksilvers to open, but he's the only Silverhawk I ordered 2 of to open. I don't want to. I can't order 2 of all those figures, and I don't intend to open all of them. No. I only did absolute favorites.
I bought 1 of each to open. I have a Thundercat shelf over here, and a Thundercats and a Mutant shelf, and I have 1 of every one of them, and I've opened every one of them.
So how annoyed are you that the Tiger that you cancel, which was the clear one to be invisible, actually has the right arm with the elbow pad on it?
Them son of a bitches can eat a dick. That's what I say. Brian Flynn, you insidious son of a bitch. I know you've got a secret lair somewhere. And I know you just sit and plot. You hit me last year. You fucked me last year. And I tried to say, you know what? They wouldn't do my boy this way. It's COVID. It was the ramifications of 2 years of COVID. I sat in limbo for 2 years on my Thunder tank. And then literally you hit me again this year. Time my tank hits 4 ultimates in a damn 2-day span. You bastards.
It doesn't bother me when that stuff comes in clump because I've already budgeted for it. Because the way I buy it, if I can't budget ahead for that, I won't pre-order it. So I always check my budget, pre-order it, and when I know when it's going to come out, and then if it doesn't, I just keep moving that pre-order forward to when it says it's new one because it's already budgeted in. I haven't lost the money. My problem with him is that he gets on a lot of podcasts or interviews and he makes excuses for all the stuff where none of it's ever their fault for it being late. It's not their fault the Tiger didn't have the elbow pad, it hadn't the production run and this and that. But then you turn around and fix it on a special release that not everybody's going to buy, but you can't just sell that elbow pad or make a new arm and put in a service pack to sell to people who want to fix it and put a new arm on the right arm on the body. It just, that stuff like that where he won't take any accountability is what bothers me.
Yeah,
I feel like he skirts that a lot.
Well, honestly, I feel like with them, they have just took on too damn much. And I get the issues you run into in factories. We had COVID. It fucked a lot of shit. I get it. But I deal in distribution. You deal, with the same similar stuff. We deal with logistics. At this point, it's not that as you're burning the candle at both ends, and you just have your hands in too much shit.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah, and I don't want to blast them too bad because I still buy some of their stuff, but yeah.
I literally have Slash and Metalhead right here on my desk, but that doesn't mean
doesn't mean that I can't complain about your stuff, and they're not 100% correct in what they do. I mean, no toy company is, but the bigger companies get a lot of flack, and this is supposed to be a special ordered one, but you still can't give me the right special ordered stuff is I guess what gets on my nerves. But honestly, once I'm done with Thundercats and Silverhawks and the main team of those, they're not selling anything else I'm buying unless they pick up another license that I really need. If they pick up Brave Star tomorrow, sure. If they did more He-Man, maybe, but I'm buying the Masterverse ones. Actually, I got Masterverse New Age He-Man in today.
I got Cobra Commander and I got the Bat because they're even in their animated look, it's close enough to what I like. I probably won't go in for any more of the Joes. It would surprise me if I went in for any more of the Ultimates, unless I were to just stumble upon like that store that you go to all the time.
Yeah,
if a certain one there was at a good price, yeah, I'd like to have them, but it's nothing I have to have. And
dude,
the Thundercats,
I almost went there.
Thundercats are waning out, so.
I almost went there and got Ninja Turtles because they got all 4 turtles that had already been open, and they sold them at like $25 a piece.
And see, I would do that. Something like that, or like certain mutants like Baxter Stockman, Leatherhead, were some of my favorites growing up. I would probably go in for those.
And I shouldn't say there's none I'm going to get because if they put out, as they're doing G.I. Joes, or if they do when they do my favorites, like I've only bought Duke and Flint so far. I contemplated Doc because I want a Doc, but I want him in the classified line to put with my figures because I'm not opening them, and they don't scale the same because they're an inch taller, so that you can't put them with them really. So if they do a few of those I really like, I'll buy those, but that's it.
Well, that's where I stand corrected on the Joe line. I did go in for Doc. I have Doc and Storm Shadow both pre-ordered, so I do have those. I wasn't impressed with the Snake Eyes. Typically, I go in for most Snake Eyes, but no.
I didn't.
Like I'll get all the Hawks with Silver Hawks. But Monstar is going to be the only mutate I buy or villain, unless they do a Dark Hawk or whatever it was. What was Quicksilver's evil doppelganger? Wasn't it Dark Hawk?
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. It might be. I can't remember what his name is.
It's really just going to be a different head. That's really all you're getting is an alternate head.
With shading under the eyes to make him evil. Yeah. Oh, man. I didn't have much of a Geek Week, honestly. And then, honestly, the last 2 weeks, I've just been catching up on a few shows and books here and there, but nothing that's been really stood out. But I did get my New Age He-Man in today from the Masterverse line. But other than that, toy-wise, I haven't got anything. Watching-wise, you brought up Mando, but then I did go to the theater and watch Ant-Man and Wasp, and it was a good movie, but it was one of those, if I gave it a grade, I'd probably say like a 6.5, maybe a 7. there was some good stuff in it, but it felt like a filler movie just to introduce the next villain. I felt like if they'd have done that as a TV show, and we talked about this some offline, but if they'd have done this as a TV show and gave you more time inside the quantum realm and actually expanded more on Scott's story as Ant-Man and maybe even done something with the Wasp, because that she was doing nothing the entire movie, honestly. She was just kind of there, and a lot of times she wasn't there. If they'd have done more with them, it would have been a movie about them, or a TV show could have done that better, but they didn't. It wasn't a movie about them. It was just a movie about some Marvel stuff to introduce Kane. No, it wasn't bad.
I kind of felt that way with Wakanda Forever. I finally sat down and watched it Tuesday night. Because I hadn't watched it, and I was not happy with the way they done Namor. I was not. The fact that what just wasn't even called Atlantis. His origin didn't bother me. The fact that they're Aztecian or whatever really
but you can still call it Atlantis and call it out.
Yeah, that was my thing. And never once is it referred to as Atlantis. It's like I don't know what Marvel's doing. Like literally, it just broke just before we started recording. Did you see where Stephen Yen is being announced as the Sentry?
I saw he was going to be joining one of the movies, but I didn't see who he was.
They've teased his Thunderbolts involvement for a couple of days now. And
I saw that.
I seen it just before we started recording. I wasn't sure if you'd seen it, where it's been pretty well confirmed that he's going to be the Sentry.
I can't see that.
No, it makes no damn sense. I mean, and I love the actor. Like literally, I loved him on Walking Dead, and I love him in Invincible. He's great. But he is not the Sentry. Come the fuck on. We don't have to do this, people.
Nah, I saw something. I saw something that I hadn't had a chance to look into. I guess the Marvels movie has been delayed and pushed back too, so they're having issues with it. But Ant-Man was good. It wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't great. The only other thing I've watched besides that stuff is I had been watching The Last of Us on HBO.
Is that worth watching? I keep getting mixed signals from people.
It's hard to say if it is or not. Like the episodes that are great are fantastic, but the episodes that are kind of like filler or just a little bit slower and they don't really, I don't know. Those are hard to just sit there and just pay attention to. Like I said, the episodes that are great, man, they're wonderful, but they're hard to pay attention to every episode because it starts to fall off and it's like, why am I? Like they've had a couple of them that are very heartfelt and heartwarming, and I don't want to spoil any of it if you decide to watch it. But there's one with this young kid and his younger brother who is deaf and the stuff that goes on with him. And man, it is so. I was so invested in those characters for one episode, for one 1 hour long episode. I was so invested in them, and then to see what happens at the end, it's like, man, that was hard to watch. I mean, not like it wasn't fun to watch, but it was like, damn, I didn't want to see anything bad happen to him. I hated to see this.
I keep seeing memes where it's basically a lot like Walking Dead. Like time you invest in a character, like certain characters you would start out hating, and it was like almost the second you started liking this character, that fucker was dead. Like Noah, when he finally redeemed himself, I knew the episode where he's sitting there with the old guy and tells him he wants to start learning how to do architect. I said, he's dead. He's redeemed himself finally. He's becoming a likable person after what he fucking did, earlier on.
Yeah.
And boom.
That's kind of, I mean, but it's not even that because these characters, these characters are only here for one episode because the story is only about these two characters. And anybody who comes along is going to be in and out. But
Their
man,
father.
it's but they still made you care about them. It's like watching Rogue One where these fools are all dying at the end, but you still care.
Yeah.
But then there's episodes where it's like the first episode was way too long. Like the first half an hour of the first episode was fantastic. And then after that, it's like, this is getting way too long because it's an hour and a half episode and I'm getting sleepy. And then I found myself another episode a couple later. I'm like, all right, this is boring. I was about ready to give it up. And then the next episode, I was like, bam, that's fantastic. Like the first one, to me, the first episode was meh because it was half and half. I was like, I'm not sure. Second episode, I was about to get out. Third episode was like, damn, that's really good. And then it's kind of bounced back and forth. So it's really been hard to tell if I would recommend it or not. Honestly, it's just very hard.
Ooh, might hold off then.
I'd say it's worth doing, but try to probably break up that first one in a little bit smaller chunks might be better for the first one. But after that, they're pretty good. Like I said, in between. Not every one of them is great.
I got you.
But with that, that's kind of all of my Geek Week. So let's go straight to our focus topic this week. So we have a wonderful interview coming up that we pre-recorded, and we'll pop in here. It's with Mr. Seth Stafford. He does a lot of diorama building, and I think he's been doing some custom figures too.
I'm seeing a few on those pages. It looks good.
Yeah,
they look good too.
And this is our first chance to actually get to have a long, in-depth conversation. So we might be missing at this point what all he's been into, but we've got the interview coming up, and we're going to record that. So you'll see a little time jump, and then we'll be right back. And after that, we'll go in and nerd out.
Well, welcome everybody. As we promised, we have a special guest. We have diorama builder extraordinaire, Mr. Seth Stafford, with us tonight, and he's going to walk us through a few things and explain all the wonderful world of building dioramas.
And before we kick off, because Seth, I'll be honest with you, we were terrible about asking this at the end of the interview. So if you want to share your social media or anywhere people can find you, feel free to do that at any time, because I'm terrible about remembering to ask near the end of it. So I wanted to throw that out there up front. And before we get too far in, I'd really like to share with all the listeners like how we came about finding you and getting a chance to talk to you, because and we talked about this a little bit off air before we started recording, but I was one day talking to a friend who was doing some creative stuff at home, and was like, hey, check out this I was building. They were working on a doghouse thing that they were building. It's like, that's really impressive. I was like, if you're going to be that creative, why don't you make me some dioramas? Because as you can see, my figures get posed really well, or decently for me, I guess. But
really well.
but they're just in a glass case or on a bookshelf. There's nothing else there. So it's like, it takes away from it. And I'm like, I need some dioramas, and I'm not creative enough to do it. So I was trying to convince my friend to do it, and she was like, yeah, I don't know how to do all that stuff. And then as soon as I stopped talking to her, she's like, you guys show me some. As soon as I stopped talking, I was just flipping through Instagram, and I was like, hey, at Mike's Vintage Toys, which if you've never been in the Dayton area, and if you ever go there, stop by, because Mike's a great guy. Wonderful store. I love going there. He's super nice. He has great stuff at great prices. Wonderful place to go. But I saw some of your dioramas on there that he was promoting and selling in the store, and I was like, well, now I got to go up there because I love these. And then I looked on your Instagram page. I was like, dude, this is really cool. And I reached out to the house and said, we got to see if we can convince him to come on the show and talk to us and educate us, because I don't know enough about how to do this stuff. So thank you very much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys reaching out. I've never had an invite like this before, so I was pretty excited to do it. And definitely check out Mike's if you get the opportunity. But I mean, I kind of got into diorama building thinking the same way you were. Spent my money, got this plastic, pose it, sit it on a shelf, and then I was bored with it, kind of thing, you know. and I started building really small pieces just to give it some shelf presence. And it just kind of took off from there. It went from being little, 6x6 inch square bases to I've done, 3 foot by 3 foot photography setup, commission builds, stuff like that, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's been fun.
That sounds interesting. I've tried to watch people on YouTube like giving I guess educational videos or tutorials on how to do it, and I was like, this is just way over my head. I guess I'm just not a creative. I'm a clumsy person, so that kind of takes away from being creative, I guess.
Well, typically there is some razor blades or whatever involved with diorama building, so you just watch that, But I mean, it's definitely a creative process. So I mean, there is a learning curve. Just like if you said, hey, I want to start painting, or hey, I want to start whatever, there's, you're not going to just hit the ground running. There's going to be some baby steps, I am an ex-tattoo artist, I am a creative individual, and I really enjoy this creative outlet because it ties into my collecting hobby as well. And when I do commissions and sell pieces and stuff, it then funds my collecting hobby as well. So it's a win-win for me,
Very, very much so. How long would you say it probably took you to, like, you said a learning curve? and you baby steps and whatnot. How long would you say it probably took you to get to a stage where you're like, okay, I'm pretty damn good at this?
I mean, there was probably the majority of a summer, you know what I mean, where I was building nonstop. You know, the wife's like, "Hey, the grass needs mowed," you know, that kind of thing. Like, "Hey, it's time to go to bed." You know, I got a little obsessive with it. You know what I mean? Which is in my personality in general. But I mean, there was a good part of a summer, or maybe 6 months, where I was pretty nonstop working on stuff for myself. The ideas just wouldn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept building, you know, and and then as I started posting more, because I had a personal Instagram, and I used to post some of my tattoo work and just family stuff and stuff like that, you know, some collecting stuff. But then and I started posting diorama stuff, and as it really started taking off, I made a dedicated diorama page, Trophyhuntertoys, and and it just took off. In my mind, to the degree it is, you know. Um, but at one point, I was booked out with like commissions for like a year and a half,
Wow.
and I said no more commissions, because it's stressful. You know what I mean? You've got people's money, they're waiting on your product, and it takes time. And this is an evening thing. It's a after work, after kids, after, you know what I mean? So, and I would keep people up to date. And a lot of customers were very good, you know, but there was always a few that would, you know, any updates, any updates, any updates, and it's like, oh, hold on, you know.
They want it overnight.
Yeah, and like most art, it doesn't just happen overnight, you know. So finally, I said, you know what, I'm going to build what I want to build, be it for, you know, whatever scale, photography, display, you know, because there is some difference there in what you have in mind. But and if it sells, it sells, and if it doesn't, I'll lower the price. You know what I mean? But I don't want to be on a timetable where I'm rushing things.
That was kind of one of the things that Anders was talking about last week. He builds Freddy gloves, and he was talking about how certain people will just, hound the shit out of him, like, hey, where are we at? And to the point where he was like, you know what? I'm not touching this anymore.
Yeah.
Did you find it took away from the fun of doing it when it was stressful like that? When you were doing the commissions, did it kind of take away from some of it?
Definitely. And I'd go back to when I was tattooing. When you had a fun piece, it was a blast. When it was not something you were excited about, it was work. And when you were working on a piece you weren't excited about, with dioramas, I'm working on a piece I'm not excited about. I got a guy bugging me about a timeline. I've got another piece lined up after this, another piece lined up after that, and something I want to work on in my head, and I can't work on it because I've got all this stuff lined up. So yeah, it really kind of killed it for me. So,
but are you enjoying it more now that you're kind of doing more?
Oh yeah,
you're building kind of your own designs now versus the commissions and stuff.
Yep. I'm back to what I started doing in the first place, which was just building what I want to build. And if somebody proposed, so I am working on a commission now, so I'm already backpedaling. But if somebody came to me with a really fun idea, for a Mythic Legions piece, and I was like, yeah, sure, definitely, we'll talk. So we had some back and forth calls, and some even FaceTimed, and spoke in depth about it, and made sure we were on the same page, and said, yep, let's do this, you know.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you're still probably enjoying it, I'm sure, because it's again something you were interested in as it came to you. It wasn't just a, hey, build this for me, and I'll hound you till you're done with it.
Yeah, definitely.
So if I could ask you a question, just take a step back. So what got you into collecting in the first place?
So I used to collect as a child, I mean, I had tons of stuff. Don't know whatever happened to most of it, but so we were at Toys R Us Christmas shopping for our kids, and this has been 8 to 10 years ago now, and I came across a NECA Predator, and I had to have it. Alien, and that's where the Trophyhuntertoys name comes from. It's a Predator thing.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah, but I'm a big Aliens, Predator, Sci-Fi. I just love all that stuff, you know. And I got that Predator, and that's the one I took home and set him on my shelf. And then we were at Gym City Comic Con in Dayton, and I picked up a NECA Xenomorph, and I'm gonna put him with my Predator. So then I got him on my shelf, like in a fight pose, you know, faced off, and then I'm like, man, wouldn't it be cool if they had like a scene or something? And that's how it started, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, just for all the people who are listening out there. But that's where I started. Like, I've got all these nice poses and stuff, but then it's like, what do I do next? Because
but see, Monster kind of undersells themselves a little bit. It's like, as you can look, his are posed very nice. He'll send us pictures like bragging like an asshole to a couple of our friends. We're on the same post, and he's like, check this out I got. And it's like it's some really kick-ass pose. And here I got, this is how my figures get posed. They're pretty basic, you know, they're just standing there like with a simple flex, you know, or something, or just, I mean, they're ready. And he's got like a full battle scene, you know.
They don't fall over as easily that way, though.
They do not. That's the practicality behind mine.
Right.
Yeah, see, I travel for work, so when I come back home from any trip, first thing I do is walk through. Did anything fall over? And usually there's always at least one or two, especially if you get somebody, like if you get a Marvel Legend is a great example. If you get them in a running pose and you can get them to balance, because they'll balance pretty well most of the time.
Yeah.
But man, the slightest off kilter vibration from every now and then will knock it over.
I don't care what you do. This Mr. Sinister I have, he falls every damn time, and his back, the cape is soft goods.
Yeah.
So when it falls, it'll fold, and if you don't catch it enough time, it's like it almost wants to stay there, and it's like, you rascal.
Yeah, well, see, I don't have that one, but like my Human Torch is running, and then I have a one on a stand where he's flying, so it's like he ran and flamed on and started flying. But if I leave the house and I can slam the door as hard as possible, he'll be fine. It thunders outside and he falls over. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I had a Diamond Select Gypsy Avenger from Pacific Rim 2.
Yeah.
And that figure was beautiful, but it would not stay standing. I don't remember if it was the hips or the knees, but it was one or the other. Would not stay standing for, 20 minutes. Every 20 minutes it was falling over. And I finally tore it apart. And there's pictures on my Instagram. Tore it apart and used an old McFarlane. They had the deluxe fish tank figures.
Yeah.
They came in that big plastic tank. I used one of them and built a diorama inside that, where it's just the top half of the robot. And it's like being assembled and stuff. And I was like, this is a lot better than it laying down on the shelf. So
yeah. How long does it take you to, like, from start to finish? Like, just you get an idea, you know, okay, I'm doing this. What's your kind of start to finish time just of building one?
To be honest, man, with the kids and everything, I might do 20 minutes working on something and then not touch it for 2 or 3 days, and then come back and work for 2 hours on it. You know, it's off and on. I would say on a regular size kind of DTOF piece, like Mike graciously had me bring down, there's probably 5 or 6 hours in every one of them. I mean, and that's from rough cutting the foam to final painting and sealing and everything, you know.
Do you prefer doing those DTOF size or like bookshelf length shelves or?
So I did kind of hone in on the DTOF size only because it's somewhat universal. I mean, a lot of collectors are familiar with the DTOFs, have the DTOFs. So it did give me kind of a basic size to work with. And they're small enough that you can ship them relatively easy for when I sell them, because I'll occasionally put stuff up on eBay and stuff, or even just like in Facebook groups and everything. The DTOF size ones are big enough you can pose. I mean, I've got one up here with in one of my shelves with like 12 figures on it. But it's small enough you can get it boxed up and shipped, and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and I gotta be honest, I saw one of yours that stood out the most to me, and I liked all the ones I saw on Mike that Mike had, because that's where I saw your stuff first, right? But you had the one in there where it's like tentacles coming out of the ground, and it's very mystic.
I've seen that one. Oh,
I was like, I have one DTOF shelf that is just 3 of my favorite Thundercats from the Super 7 line and a He-Man figure, and I got a Silverhawk order to go on there too. But I was like, I really would love to put them on that, because that would look so cool with them, because they have that kind of mystic feel to them, that kind of mythic type stuff. And I was like, oh, I got to get up there. I honestly, when I saw the stuff, I was in the middle of getting some dental surgery and stuff right after that, and I was like, oh, I can't get up to Dayton right now, but I'm itching to get up there after. I got to go to his wedding this weekend, so it won't happen this weekend, but I'm itching to get up there and try to find that, because that was like, dude, it would fit so well with what I had going on. I was like, oh, I need that.
Yeah, those I definitely had like a Cthulhu thing in mind when I did that versus like a sea monster thing. I was thinking like a Cthulhu mystical kind of Hellboy, something like that. But those tentacles were actually some 3D printed tentacles I bought off a guy on Mercari, I believe. And I didn't know what I was going to use them for, but I knew I would use them for something. And that was like 2 years ago. And I just put that together just shortly before, I took them down to Mike's and put them up and everything.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, that one was amazing looking. It turned out very well, I thought.
I appreciate that.
If you don't mind us asking, and I don't want to share any of your trade secrets by any means, but can you kind of tell us what your process is for when you're designing and building the dioramas?
Yeah, so I don't do any like preliminary sketching or anything like that. I have a rough idea of what I want to build, and when I was doing commissions, a lot of it was a scene from a movie, or a villain's lair from a comic, and they're very, very specific, and you got to pull up references, and you got to do all this stuff, and now that I'm doing whatever I want, I don't need to do all that. There's a basic idea of what I want to do, and then the rest of it happens as I create, basically. So as I'm cutting and sculpting,
you let it flow, so to speak.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I start with a basic idea of what I want. This is going to be one of the main things I do is rocky terrain type pieces, because they're good for doing tiers, so you can display figures better. So and then I have you need to know your basic dimensions. If you're doing a personal piece for a shelf, you need to know the dims of that shelf. I stick with the DTOF dims basically, so I'll work with that, and I'll cut blanks for like the base and stuff. But from there, it is a razor blade or like a carpenter's knife for most of the cutting. A hot wire cutter, if you have access, or you can pick one up on Amazon for like $20. But they're really good for doing all your sculpting. Texture, the foam, and what I use is the Owens Corning, the pink foam, like insulation foam. It holds texture really well. So if you push something into it, it will keep the indentations. So guys will roll up tinfoil balls and then roll the tinfoil balls around to create textures, or they'll take stones and push stone into the foam to create the texture. but then it's a combination of base coat and then dry brushing and washes and different things like that, just to kind of build what you set out to build or whatever you end up building instead.
That's really cool. I some of that I've never heard before. It's so interesting. And my mind is racing about how some of that stuff works, because I honestly, I'm like I told you before, I'm not the most creative, but like it's so fascinating to me to learn how that stuff's done.
I really enjoy it, and I mean, you can go buy a what is it, a 2x2 sheet of 1-inch foam at most Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever for less than $10 or whatever. I mean, that's something to mess around with right there.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite type of design aesthetic you've done? Like we were talking about, the one earlier was like a Cthulhu vibe. It was mystic, mythical. You like that? You prefer sci-fi, cityscapes, or?
So I've gone through phases. I've gone through phases where I was doing some like really, really detailed urban, modern city stuff. And I got so tired of carving bricks, I couldn't stand it anymore.
I bet that's tedious as hell.
It is. And I want to get to the fun part, the painting and making it come to life. That's where it really, you start seeing it, and bricks hold that up so bad. But they look good when they're done, but it's such a process. But so like the hyper realistic urban stuff is fun because you can layer so much grime, layer and layer and layer down to trash on the sidewalks and alleyway, all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty monotonous as well. I'm pretty diehard into collecting the Mythic Legions right now, which is a fantasy line if you're not familiar. So I'm really enjoying doing a lot of like ruins and like temple ruins and stuff like that. Is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've seen so many of those on some of your pages, and all that. Those are amazing to me. I really like those. I'm more into that than I am the cityscape look myself.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Mine's off the beaten path a little bit because I was going to hit him with like a randomer. So I know, like most tattoo shops, when you go in there, the really kick-ass ones, you got some good music blasting. It makes things flow. What do you have blasting when you're doing these sets here that just makes you, pound it out and just you get in the zone?
Man, I'm listening to podcasts most of the time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and music when I work out, podcasts when I do the dioramas.
Okay, it's different. Oh, I wouldn't have thought that, but okay.
I will tell you that they always tell you listen to music and makes you think more, but I'll be honest with you, when I'm working and I'm working from home when I'm not traveling like I am this week, I turn on a podcast too when I'm working because it's good background noise, and I listen to stuff. And I've never caught myself actually typing what they're saying, even when I'm typing. So I was like, I'm still paying attention to what I'm doing, but I love to hear that stuff in the background.
Right. And I like the sci-fi stuff too. It's a lot of fun. I try to keep what I do pretty versatile or generic, I guess, so that you could put Marvel Legends or Mythic Legions or McFarlane stuff. I want it to be versatile. The sci-fi stuff is almost really hard to do that with because, like Star Trek looks very different from Star Wars. These things are very, very, they all have such a unique vibe to their sci-fi. It's generic sci-fi really looks like generic sci-fi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, like Star Trek, you can get away with about anything with a strange new world. Star Wars, you got a few beaten paths you can pretty well get with.
Yeah.
And I love Star Wars, and Star Wars fandom is so. Star Wars and Transformers fan, I've always found they can be very toxic if you're not careful with their stuff. Yeah,
or assholes, monster.
Yeah.
So if you find a group of fans who are more of a community, it's one thing. But when you get into the fandom and it's so big, like they will fight over the smallest things. It's like, dude, let's we just came here to enjoy it together. Who cares if this one thing wasn't the way you wanted it? Just it's not your thing. But I only thought about that and brought it up because we were talking about the Star Trek and Star Wars stuff. I'm like, man, Star Wars fans sometimes. I'm a fan, but man, I avoid talking to a lot of for that reason. Transformers too.
Fucking Trekkie.
I think there's some of that in every fandom, though. There's a bad apple in every bunch, you know.
There's nothing better than I follow a few custom pages on Facebook, and it's always on my personal account, not the show account. But I'll be looking, and I'll occasionally make a comment on something, and I love when someone tries to come on and correct me. And I start debating, like, do I want to educate this asshole, or just let them have it? Because sometimes it's like I just walk away and I let them have it, and then some days it's like, not today, player.
And we're not that hard to get along with. He makes it sound worse than it is. And he probably is. I'm not. I'm like, okay, that's your opinion. We're good.
My monster's a lot more laid back than I.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, because I see behind you the stack of Godzillas up there. So you said you're really into the Mythic Legions. What other stuff are you really collecting? Or it looks like you got a lot of Godzilla up there, which are cool looking.
Yeah. So I collected all the NECA Godzilla. The base figures, not like they have a lot of like the powered up versions, like repaints where he's got like the power up effects. So I collected like the standard versions of each iteration they put out. Like I said, NECA Aliens and Predators is what got me back into collecting. So I got a bunch of those. Planet of the Apes, the original and the new trilogy, NECA Planet of the Apes. Hellboy and NECA's Evil Dead, all the original Mezco Hellboy from 1 and 2. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, but it's definitely NECA dominated. But I got to tell you, Mythic Legions, I started collecting about a year ago. And the only thing I've bought since then that wasn't Mythic Legions was already on pre-order. And they've really kind of dominated what I do now. The NECA Gargoyles line is, I'm super stoked about that.
Yes.
And my Hudson came, I picked up Bronx just a little while back. I got the rest on pre-order. I think those are the only things I'm really actively collecting outside of the Mythic Legions.
As a collector, are you equally as griped at the fact that only Goliath has caped wings so far?
Yes. So I am, and because those outstretched wings, they take up so much room.
Massive.
They're huge, and it looks amazing. But who has the room?
The only one I got is Goliath, and that's for that reason, because I was like, where would I put the rest? Because I couldn't even fit him inside of one. Most of my collections in DTOF, except for a few on bookcases. He's standing on top of the DTOF because his wings outstretched. Because I didn't buy the cape ones with Bronx. Mm-hmm. He won't fit inside of it. There, no direction you put him in will he go in there from wingtip to wingtip and close the door.
Thus far, I have them all, and they're still in the box, and it's like killing me because I want to open them so damn bad. But it's like, where do I put them?
I'll tell you, if you're feeling froggy, I took a heat gun and put on some gloves and took a heat gun. This was before Bronx came out. And I heated up his wings and reshaped them so they were kind of like a billowy kind of thing.
Okay.
I did that to him, and I did that to Hudson, which I think the rest of them are supposed to get cloaked wings released.
Yeah, I want to say Damona's going to have some coming with Xanathos, or maybe she already has them coming with Lexington. Maybe that's what it was. But there's rumored I have Xanathos figure. I have a set of cape wings for someone. Would you say Hudson's probably the best looking one of the line so far? Because to me, he's the best looking one.
Yeah, he is a gorgeous figure for sure. And he's one of my favorite characters. I love Hudson's character, the grizzled old gargoyle. Yeah, he's fantastic.
I have not got a chance to see him in person yet. I haven't seen him anywhere. Usually those I pick up at Target if I get them or somewhere like that. I don't usually pre-order them just because as soon as Target gets them, for whatever reason, they tend to drop the price immediately. And I'm like, I'll just wait till it gets here.
And they always get them before Big Bad Toy Store does. I order all mine through Big Bad Toy Store, and damn it, they don't always get them first. And by the time I get mine through them, the prices drop to Target.
Yep. Yeah, everybody gets everything before Big Bad Toy Store does, but I still order there too.
Yeah. Yeah, and next I was going to ask you about your Godzilla. Did you were you interested at all in the Super 7 Godzilla? I saw them; they looked cool, but I don't know. I Super 7 sometimes I don't enjoy ordering from because they usually miss their mark on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I feel like I'm really complete with my Godzilla collection. It's unfortunate that NECA lost that license in my mind, but I'm really good with the collection I have. So I hate to say it's done, but it would take something pretty big for me to add to my Godzilla collection right now. I mean, they did a lot with it. So
if you got a piece just to display, I will say NECA is probably one of the best companies as far as detail and accessories and things of this nature. The posability sometimes is not always, or the points of articulation, so to speak. They're not always the greatest, but
yeah, and I think a lot of it as a collector is why are you collecting? Is it artistic reasons? Is it just nostalgia? Are you actually posing? Are you photographing? Where do you fall on that spectrum? Because they definitely sacrifice some posability for sculpt.
Yeah.
And typically I'm fine with that,
Yeah, and
I am as well. So,
and I did want to ask you, since you brought that up, and you were talking earlier about doing the different dioramas for whether it's for picture purposes or just for posing on a shelf. What's kind of the difference that you see in building those type of dioramas between the two?
So typically for a photography piece, it's going to be larger so that you can pull back a little bit farther and create a bigger scene. Also, typically for display pieces, they'll be detailed, completed all the way around. Maybe not the back and the bottom, but all the way around the sides, even on the outside, like if it had walls or whatever, because it's going to be a display piece on a shelf. A photography piece, typically, if I was making it, it wouldn't be that. The sides and everything would just be raw on the outside of the diorama, but on the inside walls, it would be a complete scene. So there's a little bit more work that would go into a display piece, but a photography piece is typically larger, and that's also going to give you more angles to shoot into to vary up, have more use, get more use out of your piece.
That makes a lot of sense. I never thought about it that way. It's interesting. Do you have a piece that you've done that you would say has probably been your favorite so far, or would that be like trying to choose your favorite child?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That'd be rough. Yeah. I don't think I could, to be honest with you. I don't think I could.
That's fair. I mean, I always ask people that, and it's kind of like it's also like asking, "Can you choose your favorite child?" Well, you can't really because you love them the same.
Well, and even pieces that aren't my favorite, there's things about them that I love.
Yeah.
And even if I chose one that was my absolute favorite right now, I could still nitpick it and show you things. Shouldn't have done that. I should have done that. You know what I mean?
Well, what artist doesn't know? I mean,
usually we are our own worst critics, right?
Yep.
Because there's a lot of things that you would point out that I would never even have probably seen. I'd be like, I'd be sitting there staring at like, that's amazing looking.
Yeah, so I've seen some figures on your page where you're starting to do figures and whatnot. So are you at the stage where you're just like repainting or painting, or are you actually starting to do some sculpting? So, where are you at with the figures of this?
So a lot of it's just painting. there's a big market for 3D printed heads, like aftermarket heads for like Mythic Legions. So there's independent artists and small companies selling custom portraits. So I'll order custom portraits and do some painting. I have done some small sculpting. It's typically modding one of those heads. You know, it's not like a from scratch kind of thing.
So I wanted to ask too, because you talked about the Mythic Legions a little bit. How good are those figures? I don't actually own any of them. I've looked at a bunch of them that look like the green, and I don't know the name of some of them, but like the one that looks like Cringer from He-Man, but he's a full character. So I was like, these would be so cool to put in with some of my stuff, but I've not bought any of them yet. So I was curious how good they were.
They're amazing. I don't know what else to say. I was always intimidated by the price point of them aftermarket, and come to find out, I was just looking at older figures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at retail, when Four Horsemen has a new wave coming out, it's typically up for pre-order for a month from them, and it's, you know, like basically $40 a figure.
No.
And pre-order them then, and then you got to wait for them. But, you know, and if you don't want to do that, you can order them at release, or pre-order them from a retailer that won't take payment up front. But it's like $50 a figure basically for a standard figure. But like I said, I went from collecting all kinds of lines and different properties down to pretty much just collecting Mythic Legions. I was very impressed.
Well, it's hard to beat the Four Horsemen. They're pretty damn amazing.
I came so close to getting into the Mythic Legions, and the only reason I didn't, it was last year. I went to Columbus, Ohio for the PowerCon, the He-Man convention that they were having.
I was there.
Oh, okay. So, you know, they had that big booth set up, and they had a special one that they were selling right then and there. And I looked at that so bad, I was like, I kind of want to get in and try one and get some, but the line for that was so long. I finally said, no, because my son was with me. We're like, all right, he's tired of being here. We've been here enough. So we gave up on it and left. And I was like, that's probably the only reason I didn't get into it, which, if you look around at all my different stuff, I probably don't need to get into anything else, focus my stuff, but I kind of wanted to. Like I said, that one that stood out to me the most was the one that looked like Cringer. I was like, what if I put him with Thundercats on that shelf? That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. That was a long line.
I looked at it and I walked by it like twice, and I said, nope, no chance.
Yeah. Me and the wife stood in that. So we stood in the line to get into the con, and then when we got in the doors, we were early, so they opened the doors, lines moving. We go get in right into line to go to the Four Horsemen booth. I'm like,
oh wow,
from line to line.
If I remember correct, when you went in the door, it was like 2 rows to the left, so the line for that was starting as people were going in the door, and I was like, why is this? And when we were walking in, my son and I was like, all right, the line's moving, we're going to get in, because we were there early. And then there was another line. I was like, why is there 2 lines? And I was confused at first. And they're like, oh, everybody's waiting to get in for Mythic. I was like, I'm going to go the other direction now. And when you turned right, it's like there was nobody. It was crickets.
Nobody. Yeah. It was a good show. And there was a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, I remember. I think NECA had a booth there too, if I remember right. And they had some cool stuff showing what they were coming out with.
Yeah, they weren't selling, which was weird to me. They were only, displaying.
I was wondering about that, because I saw the display and I saw the posters up for what was coming for the rest of the year, but I didn't see anything for sale. So I was like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, they came a long ways to not sell anything.
That is true. I didn't realize they actually weren't selling. I just was curious of why they didn't have stuff. I walked by and got a poster from them of what was coming out, because I do like their Ninja Turtle stuff over the Super 7, because it's more animated looking. So I picked that up, but I don't think I ever talked to anybody at the booth other than getting that. It was a fun show, though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we're going to go back this year for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get there. It all depends on work schedule at this point. But I know we've taken some of your time and we didn't want to take your whole night, and we do appreciate you coming on. Unfortunately, we're a little strapped. We would love to stay on and talk with you even longer, but I'm more strapped for time because I have to get ready to go to his wedding, and I have to leave at like 3 a.m. on a flight. So he's killing my evening.
I'm sorry, fam.
I'm gonna blame him all day long, but we do appreciate you coming on, and hopefully you come back with us again and maybe share some more of your projects and stuff that you got coming up.
Absolutely.
If you would like to do that.
Yeah, yell at me anytime and hit me up if you start trying to mess with some builds for sure.
I will definitely do that, and I will probably make it to Mike's before I start messing with a build and see what he's got left in there.
I don't know. He's about to explain today. It kind of inspired me to try my hand at some things.
Yeah, man, go for it.
I'll watch you go first.
Trial and error, monster. Trial and error.
Yeah, so when you try and you hurt yourself, then I know what not to do. See, that's your trial, and I don't make the error.
My trial and error. So working man to working man, what we sipping on tonight?
This is lemonade, just straight lemonade. No hard stuff.
I thought you had some margarita there for a minute.
I wish I did. That's only lemonade.
I got you, brother. I got you.
I wish.
He can't take me anywhere.
He's already had several drinks because he's trying to get rid of the jitters.
Yeah.
Because when we first turned on the computer earlier, and the first time we talked, he fumbled through the first 5 or 6 sentences he said at all.
Yeah, it was bad. It was real bad. We're deep enough now. We're in the clear.
There you go.
I don't know what he's nervous about. This is the second time around us. So.
Trying to get this one right, monster.
But we do appreciate you coming on, sir. We thank you very much. We couldn't have asked for a better chance to get to talk to you and interview you. And again, your stuff is amazing. And for anybody out there, if you haven't been to Mike's and you come to the Dayton, Ohio area, make sure you check that out. But keep an eye out. And what was your social media page? Trophy Hunters was one. Is that the main one you post on?
Yeah, yeah. Trophyhuntertoys on Instagram is pretty much where I'm active. Yeah.
Okay. So for anybody out there, make sure you check out his page. It's wonderful. I've been looking at it quite a bit lately, getting ready to talk to you here. Well, now I can't speak for some reason. I guess I made too much fun of you. But yeah, we really do appreciate you coming. It was a fantastic interview.
Yeah, I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, man.
All right. Hey, congrats on the wedding and safe travels.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching that interview. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Very fun to talk to Seth, and we really appreciated him coming on. Hopefully he'll be back again another time. But with that, Hassel, let's go to Nerd Out. For anybody who hasn't been here before, this is the part of the show where we ask random questions associated around topics of the day, and we have to respond with no prep time. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Just depends on what we want to talk about. But if you want to expand upon our answers or tell us how we are wrong, feel free to do that in the comments, or if you want to give your answers to our questions, we'd love to hear that too. But with that, Hassel, you went first earlier, so I guess you get to go first on this one too.
Good deal, because I did not have a backup question. So, with that being said, if you had unlimited funds and space, what one diorama would you want?
This was my backup question, somewhat. My backup question is, what's the ideal diorama type you'd like to have? So very similar, but I debate between two of them because I'd like to do some kind of. So every time you watch Power Rangers and they have a big team up episode, they're always on a freaking cliff somewhere, and the teams are like staggered between different cliffs. And I'd like to do something like that, and maybe put like maybe some. You could probably do it with not with like a cotton or something that's dyed or colored and have the explosion behind the Ranger colors. I'd like to do something like that, but I'd also, part of me really wants to do my G.I. Joe classified and have like I don't know if I want a urban cityscape or a war type look like you see in a lot of the pictures that they do for their promotional stuff, or if I want an outdoors, just, hey, we're going to come up here and we're coming over the hill, marching over the hill as the triumphant army or whatever. I'd kind of like to do something with theirs.
Oh, that'd be nice. That would be nice. I almost makes me want to change my answer.
What was your answer?
Well, before I say my answer, I would say it would be awesome to have like a Terradrome. Well, isn't that what the code version was? The one where it opened up and there was a little jet come out of the center.
Yes, I think so.
A classified skill that would be sweet. HasLabs if you're listening, but no, mine is. Since I said unlimited funds in space, I've won the Mega Millions. I have a fucking big place. I'm outsourcing the shit out of this because I am not skilled enough to do this shit. So what I'm doing is I'm going to have the front of the X-Men mansion with the lawn. And then you got Marvel Legends, the Sentinel, the certain villains, and then the X-Men there in a big battle.
I've seen a lot of people do like the mansion and do like the different teams. Like they'll do one side of the mansion or the front of the mansion, and then they'll do like X-Force team. And then they'll do the mansion and they'll put like the X-Men team in the team uniforms or whatever. I've seen a lot of people do those. I like those a lot.
Mine would probably definitely be broke down between like an X-Men 97-ish team versus Sentinel and, the classic villains.
Yeah.
And then I'd have the Age of Apocalypse. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen people do it like the mansion and just the X-Men, and then in another shelf of a bookcase it'd be like what would basically be the Asteroid M throne room, Magneto sitting on a throne, and then several of the villains around and stuff like that, which is always kind of cool looking too.
Now that I think about how cool would it be, like if you got the mansion and draw a line down the center of the mansion, one half be devastated, one half be pristine. The pristine side is the X-Men 97 squad fighting their villains. The devastated side will be Age of Apocalypse, the heroes, villains versus Apocalypse and his four horsemen.
That would be cool looking. That would be cool looking.
There you go.
Sticking with the same theme, though, my question was this, and this was, since you took my backup question, I'm going to use my first question, which is, would you prefer to actually make your own dioramas or have some available that you could purchase?
If I had the skill, I would love to do it because, what little customizing me and you and the guys used to do back in the day in the man cave, I really enjoyed. However, the pieces looked better in my stained glass eyes versus reality because,
Sure.
Your own artwork, it always looks better than what it really is. But, I'd much rather prefer the buying place.
I'm the same way. Like I'd like to be able to make my own, and as you probably heard from when we were talking to Seth, because I shared my story with how we found out about him and got introduced to him and stuff, and so I would like to make my own, but I don't have that much time and energy to put into building the skill. Like I hear a lot of people say, you don't have to be that crafty to do it. You just have to put the time in to learn how to do it. I'm not willing to. nor do I really have it.
I don't have the patience myself because I'm gonna be honest. Like a lot of that you have to put a layer of paint down and let it sit 24 hours or better before you come out and just put maybe an accent or two.
Yeah.
That also has to sit another 20. I don't have the patience. I want this fucker done. I'll sit there for 8 hours. I don't mind doing that, but I want it done before I get up.
It's that, and it's also the fact of, okay, what if I want to put this on this bookcase or in my detail shelf, my glass details, if I want to put it in there, and what if I measured just wrong? Either it's too small or it's too long, and I'm like, now it's off. I'd rather just go buy it. But what I really want to see people sell, and they may already do it, and I just don't know it or be willing to spend on it right now because some of these are not cheap. Because I've seen people build them and for sale them, but I don't. Some of them are overpriced to me. Some of them are not. I've seen some of Seth's at Mike's Vintage Toys here in Dayton, and his are not overpriced. But I've seen some where it's like $200 for this thing, and I'm like, dude, that's just too much for what it is. But yeah. I'd like to see modular ones where you can buy them for like the size of like the Detolf glass shelves. Mm-hmm. But then if you wanted to move that stuff to a bookcase, it's modular and you just snap another piece to it. Now it's one solid longer piece and you can just keep doing that. That would be kind of cool.
That would be cool. And I get the custom people sell them for the price they sell them for because they got a lot of time and effort in it.
Yes, they do.
But maybe Ace of Ramontoya is listening because he seems to always be open to a little bootleggish.
But I'm not even talking about them because that's one thing because they put their time and effort into it. I'd be willing to spend more on what they did. Just like that's why I say Seths is not overpriced because while his cost a little bit, it's time and effort he put into it. I'm talking about these big mass producing companies that are selling them on Big Bad Toy Store and making them and then selling them for like $200. And I'm like, y'all didn't put no time in it. Y'all designed it and then y'all sent it off to get made, and y'all are probably making 1.5 times what you paid to get it made.
They have some nice stuff on there, and I actually just the other day went in for the first time for some G.I. Joe stuff that's going to be for Serpentor. It's like the tube that the figure sits in to make it look like he's actually in a cloning vat or whatever. But yeah, they've got some nice stuff, but just not. They're proud of it. I'll put it this way.
Yeah, but with that, it's about time for me to start getting ready to go hit a plane to make it down there in time for all of your events for this weekend. So with that, let's give a few shout outs to some of our friends before we get out of here. Mr. Daniel Garcia, creator of Zyberonin, and I have seen on Instagram where the book is done now and coming in from the printer slowly but surely. So it's getting ready to go out to folks. You can find him and get updates on his Facebook at Daniel Garcia and on Instagram at D Garcia Comics. Check out our friend, Mr. Chris Daly, the host of the Fueled by Weird podcast. You can find him on Instagram at Fueled by Weird and on his podcast, Fueled by Weird, where he discusses all things nerdy and weird wherever you find your podcast. Also, check out our friend, content creator, and autism activist, Miss Mandy Lynn, a.k.a. Kushimama. You can find her on Instagram at Kushimama and on YouTube at Doodles Toy Report, and her new channel, The Collector Sector, which I think we're trying to work out some details to be on there with her sometime in the near future.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for us on there as well. Mr. August Aguilar from Strange Film Studios. Check out some of his new projects. I saw he's got a new one coming out. I think it's called The Gifted, if I'm not mistaken, that they're working on right now. And then
Ginger Lynn's in it. Come on.
I saw that. And I've seen a lot of his podcast stuff is really taking off. It was already taken off before, but like some of the topics he's been having, like I'm catching little snippets here and there, and they're like really interesting and stuff that I got to spend a little bit more time listening to. Unfortunately, I haven't had near as much time to listen to podcasts at work lately as I'd like to. And also, don't forget our extended Nerdy Manroom family member, Mr. Big Rob. You can find him on his channel, Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. I was waiting on you to do so. You could catch him drop new reviews and unboxing of all of his new collectible items, as well as share his fun stories from life on the road. And Big Rob has a lot of fun stories, usually centered around a hotel, if you notice. Him and hotels just don't get along, and he travels for a living, so that's got to be fun.
God bless him.
Yeah, and remember, while you're checking all of our friends, don't forget to go check out our sponsor, The Zone Collectibles. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles, or in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Visit them for all your nerdy needs. Help them support the local artist community by supporting their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms Unite. Don't forget 5th anniversary celebration next weekend.
And Daniel Garcia will be there, actually.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that. So he picked the wrong weekend because I'm not going to be there next weekend.
I know, right?
Oh, well, it'll work out. But before we leave, Hassel, tell everybody where they can find us also.
You can find us, the most important ones to find, on your Facebook at Hassel Hutchison via the Nerdy Manroom Show. You can find us on Instagram, the Nerdy Manroom Show. You can find us on Twitter, Nerdy MR Show. Obviously here on YouTube, which is where we need you to really hit the, close enough. We need you to really hit the like, subscribe, share, bells, whistles, all that good stuff. And now we are on Roku on Southern Joy Media.
And with that brings us to a close today. But join us here next time. We're going to have an interview with author Wes Hartman of the author's the book called, and I'm going to butcher this name, which is why I didn't start with it first, The Savage Sasquatchonaut. And I might still be completely wrong, but I'm trying.
Squatchonaut.
It's very hard for me to say that and not get tongue-tied. But
it's
we're going to have
say, but fun at the same time.
It is, but we're going to get to hear more about the story from him next week. So we're looking forward to that. Until then, live nerdy and always be aware of your surroundings.